Hello, my name is Mudinda Mbevana, and welcome to the Chosen Generation. With so many marriages failing, and due to the high cost of the Instagram wedding, many people are deciding to opt for cohabitation. Is it right for us to cohabit? Well, I can answer that question. So joining me, I have a few guests who are going to help us unpack this issue. The first person who will help us is George Pelser. He is a lawyer from Legal Wise, and he will be assisting us with the legal aspects of this issue. We also have with us Pastor Boise Sioketsa, who will also give the biblical perspective. And last but not least, we have Vayatsiva Mutia, who will be here to assist us with this perspective as well. Right now, I would like to encourage you to continue talking to us. The hashtag is TCG on SID. Let us know what you think about this issue. Perhaps you can even share your story with us. It's now time for us to go straight into the conversation.
Cohabitation, that is being able to live with another person in harmony.
Staying with somebody you're not married to.
It's because there's no money. We don't have money. Like, youth in South Africa now, there's no jobs. We're sitting at home with our degrees. There's no job. What do we do? You guys, church members, elders expect us to get married at a go, but we don't have money. We don't have anything. And I'm not saying it's good to cohabit. Don't get me wrong.
I think we've had this perception that marriage is about a white wedding, a big white wedding. Lobola is expensive, right? So we end up thinking, why can't we do this? Why should we wait before we get married? And to our parents, lobola doesn't have to be expensive. That's the other problem. Because you meet a guy, he can't afford you, but he wants to stay with you. So the next thing you're cohabiting. So that's the reason why.
It's common because I feel like in this generation that we live in, we believe in doing things our way. Yeah, I think that's what makes it so common. And now we don't see anything wrong with that. We do it for the fun of it. What will people say? We don't care what people say. So yeah, I think that's why it's so common in the church.
From a Christian youth, I don't think it's okay. Biblically, it's not okay. And from a Christian youth, it's not okay. What if you don't make it to marriage? So how many partners will you test before you get to marriage? How many people will test your wife before the issue gets to you? So I think it's not okay to test before marriage.
I think in general, it's something that is quite necessary. When you move from the dating stage over into marriage, it's almost like cohabitation is a given, right? So I think being able to do that while you are dating, it's a nice test, to see how things would be if they were to eventually progress.
That is not a good reason. I feel like if you're still going to marry that person, you can stay at your house and they can stay at their place and still date. Why do you have to stay together? Yes.
It depends with the youth, but I don't think it leads to marriage because you are used to that person and you don't see a reason to take that person, like get married to that person. But if two hearts are one and we have one goal, yes, it will lead to marriage.
I don't think there's a straight answer to that because, we be generalizing it. And I think it's not really a monolithic thing, right? It depends on the people involved. Sometimes it could work, sometimes it couldn't. So I think in that sense, you'd have to look at it on a very individualistic basis.
Right, let's go into the conversation. I'll start with you, George. From a legal perspective, what is cohabitation and why is it so prevalent? Why are people choosing that option nowadays?
So from a legal perspective, cohabitation, so it's like living together as if you are married. So there's a couple living together in a long-term relationship and they conduct this relationship as if they are actually married. But the trick comes in that they are not married in terms of the law. So they do not get all the protection and all the rights and responsibilities that come with a legal marriage. So that's where it comes in. And I think it's quite prevalent at this stage. Marriages come with some costs involved as well, and you have some choices to make whether you want to be married in community of property or out of community of property. There's quite a lot of legal aspects that must be taken into account, and that's maybe why some taking the opportunity to say that, listen, let's not go through that formal process. Let's rather just live together as if we are married. And for some it works, and for some it doesn't. But there are certainly some legal aspects that must be taken into account.
That's very interesting. It seems like the law does recognize this form of relationship, and there are some things that they have. Is there a religious recognition or acknowledgement or even regulation of cohabitation?
No. The definition will almost be like the same as what he just said. But Christianity, I think in general, and I'm not talking just for one particular denomination, all denominations, most of them, they believe, or let me say, their position is that cohabitation is eroding the foundations that were laid in the Bible about marriage. So cohabitation is coming to try and erode that. So cohabitation is just a force maybe used by someone coupled with all your isms, humanism, secularism. It's actually worldliness according to Christianity, because erosion of the marriage institution, it begins, you see, we want to go back and say Genesis 2:24 is where we start. God establishes marriage. He joins two people together. Man, woman, both, you shall leave your father and mother and cleave to each other and become one flesh. That's what we believe as Christians, what we should be believing. But unfortunately, even amongst us, we're beginning to see an influence of worldliness coming into the church, where even our young people, they decide to cohabit because of some deception.
Maybe, Mab Kim, maybe there are benefits. Maybe there are benefits. Is there a benefit to cohabitation? Can something good come out of it? Maybe that's the thinking. Maybe a last part of the question, who benefits in that, setup of cohabitation?
Yes, from the Christian perspective, I still want to believe that what Jesus said to the Samaritan woman, you have 5 men that you have stayed with, but you have no husband. That was really touching. I mean, she has been with these 5 men, but then they are not hers, as the Lord has said. And so with cohabiting is the same thing. You can have that man, but that man is not yours. And so you find yourself at the receiving end as a woman, because you are now going to be doing the things that are done by married women to a man that has not committed himself to you. You'll be doing the washing, you'll be cooking, you'll be doing all sorts of things, but there is no commitment. And so with that, we can always see that there is an abuse that is happening there. This man is actually abusing you, because one day when he decides now he wants to commit himself, he can leave you there and go for another woman. And I mean, there's no way that you can go to the law. Just George has said it, that it's not legal. And so you are just being abused in that marriage, in that kind of a marriage, which is not a marriage, of course.
Yeah, you've heard it for yourself at home. Who are you staying with? Anyway, you can share your views with us. The hashtag is TCG on SID. Let us know what you think. There's much, much more after the break. We'll see you after the break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to The Chosen Generation. We are still talking about cohabitation. Don't forget to interact with us. The hashtag is TCG on SID. Let us know what you think. Right. Coming back to our conversation at hand, I'm going to start with you, Mr. Pelser. Is there any protection that can be offered to the people in a cohabitation scenario? I mean, protection by the law, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
So before I get to that, in a normal marriage, you are protected because you enter into this relationship and into this binding agreement that's recognized by the law. So you have, for example, the Marriages Act and the the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act, and we have the Civil Unions Act in South Africa that recognizes the 3 different types of marriages in South Africa. And with that recognition comes some rights and responsibilities. So you have, for example, a married couple has this duty to support each other, financially support each other as well. So with that in mind, and I think now with cohabitation, everybody has this conception that if you stay together with someone for a certain period of time, it is known as a common law marriage. It's recognized as a marriage, but it doesn't exist in our South African law. So you can stay together with someone for 40, 50 years, you won't be recognized as a married couple in terms of the law, unless you also got married in terms of one of those 3 pieces of legislation that I mentioned. But as I said, a marriage is, in essence, a binding agreement between 2 people. So there might be a form of protection that if you do not want to get married and you just want to continue to stay with each other, that you can get some form of protection in the form of a cohabitation agreement. So you can enter into an agreement that will regulate certain aspects of this relationship, but it won't have that same impact and public enforcement as a marriage would have, but in between the 2 parties, that agreement can be enforced. So you can have some protection in that instance at least.
I think I'll come back to that cohabitation agreement a bit later on to speak more about the aspects of that. But I want to bring you in here, Pastor. When people cohabit, usually they're not sleeping in different rooms. So what are the dangers of the things that are happening there? To themselves and to their relationship going forward?
Okay, you know what? There were empirical studies, research made, and it was repeated over time after this thing became popular. And they discovered that people who get into cohabitation, they get there with a false hope that at least if we start, before we marry, we test, test. Then it means the day we marry, we will be over the moon. We will be so happy, happy ever after. But then the research discovers that no, that is not the case. The research tells us, and it has been repeated continuously, to say people who cohabit are more likely than those who wait for marriage, more likely to divorce later.
Wow.
Yes. And then people who cohabit, number 2, they are more likely to experience even, psychological problems. And so, but I'm not there. I want to get to the dangers. The first danger is, the biggest one for me, is the dreaded breakup. If I stay with someone and we're not married, and we have the benefits of marriage, but we're not yet married, this guy or this lady is likely to break up with me. When they decide to break up with me, then one day later they decide to marry somebody else. Who are left behind. You cannot erase the pain very easy.
Okay.
You will always live to say, I must have been number 3. That one is number 4. Maybe there's going to be number 5. You are number 6, number 7, number 8. Because this guy is just used to start relationships, but no commitment. For us Christians, and I think for seriously thinking people who are not even Christians, I think marriage is equal to you are deciding to commit to a lifelong relationship, so that even if you were to have infatuation for somebody else when you are already married, you are able to say, I'm married, man. I can't look that. I'm married. Let me commit myself to this one. I decided. I was sober. I was not drunk. So commitment. Commitment.
Mom, I hear what the pastor is saying here. But some would say, well, I want to ensure that I don't get attracted by others who walk past. And that's why I need to test. I must take this for a test drive so that I can check what I'm getting. Do you advise that frame of thinking? What are the dangers of that?
Now, that's the danger. If I want to test drive a car and I go for that Mercedes-Benz and I find that Mercedes-Benz is not like the Ferrera that is offered there. And then I feel, yes, let me go with this, and then I'll drop it. And, I don't even care how I drop it because I'll go for another one that is better than the one that I had. Now, this testing thing, it removes what God has implanted in us. Anticipation is one of the best things that we can do for each other. Looking forward to. Now, that is where hope is.
Yes.
And now when we talk about the hope that we have, I mean, for now we are hoping for the coming of the Lord. And so when you are cohabiting, you are giving yourself wholly to this person. And next thing, he enters you. That is the problem. And the Bible says the two shall be one. So that oneness that has entered you has to be shared to another one. How many demons are coming into you? You ask yourself that, how many demons are really coming into you? Because now this one and that one, like Pastor has just said, it can go up to 7. And all of us find ourselves, that there will be that low self-esteem as well, because somebody else has taken over, and you remember those moments when you were with this man, and all of those things come and then they impact on your mental health as well. And so that is why you'd find that most of the mental health is also caused by this cohabiting thing. So don't let anyone test drive you. Just stay as you are. Let people anticipate for that day when they shall meet you and enjoy together and be as one, as God has planned it.
Amen.
Oh, yeah. Wow, okay, that's a mouthful about test driving. But I think let's go to a break. Okay. There's much more that we need to cover. To our viewers at home, the hashtag is TCG on SID. Okay. Let us know what you think about test driving. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Chosen Generation. We are still talking about cohabitation. Share your ideas with us. The hashtag is TCG on SID. Let us know what you think. Now, I start with you, George. You spoke earlier on about a cohabitation agreement. I'm interested in the protection that it offers to the people who are in that relationship, and also protection up to the extent where there is someone who dies in that relationship. Does the person get something from the estate? What are your views?
So with that, the main aim of the cohabitation agreement would be to ensure some rights and responsibilities during this relationship. So it can lead to, what do we do with our joint property? For example, do we decide that if we go and rent a house or buy a house, that it will be in both of our names or just in one name? And then what will then happen should we separate? And should this not work out? It can also deal a little bit with maintenance, who's going to support, what's going to happen with the living expenses during this relationship. So it is quite open with certain stuff. The only exception would be that you can't put anything that will be illegal in this agreement. And just, I want to touch on something as well, because this cohabitation agreement doesn't give you the same protection in law as it would if you were married. So just because you have this cohabitation agreement, it doesn't mean that you are now considered to be married. And as the pastor mentioned before the break, that sometimes it happens that you just leave someone and then you go and marry someone else. So if you are married, in terms of the law, if you are married, you can't just separate and go and marry someone else. If that happens without you getting a formal divorce in terms of the legal principles, that second marriage will be invalid. However, when you have just a cohabitation agreement, that protection won't be there for you. So, if that happens, that you can't go and dispute that second marriage. And getting back to your question on what should happen, should someone pass away? If you are legally married in South Africa, it means you will be considered as a surviving spouse.
Okay.
And when one of the partners pass away, which will lead up to, if you don't have a will, then that means you are entitled to inherit in terms of what's known as the interstate succession. However, unfortunately, that's not being pulled back to cohabitation due to the fact that it's not a formally recognized marriage. So be careful about that as well. So if you are cohabiting with someone and you want that person to inherit from you when you pass away, ensure that you do have a valid will in place, because your cohabitation agreement cannot always cannot be a will because it won't comply with the necessary requirements. So, but just as a last thought, the law is constantly developing. So I think it was about a year and a half back, the High Court actually declared that there was people who cohabitated. They lived together for about 40 years. They were engaged to get married. Everybody knew that that was their intention, to eventually get married as well. And the High Court declared and said that that person, the surviving partner in that cohabitative relationship, could be considered as a surviving spouse. So it must still be confirmed by our highest court in South Africa, the Constitutional Court, but it just shows that the law is also constantly developing. What was a rule or principle yesterday might not always be a rule or principle tomorrow. The law adapts with society as well.
Maybe I should bring you in here, Pastor. What is the importance? I know this is probably something that you preach. The importance of marrying the person that you call, marrying your life partner.
Right.
Why is that so important to the church also? But also there's a process of courtship that must come before that.
Right.
Why are those things enshrined by the religious folk? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In Christianity, we are promoting that people who are already considering getting married must get premarital counseling.
Okay.
Even when they start at the beginning of the courtship before marriage, don't wait until you say, I know the person, I can write a full book about them. No, you'll be too late. Some people come when they already decided on the date of the lobola, they already know the date of the wedding, and then they say, Pastor, they say we must come to you. For what? We don't know. So it's better for people who start a courtship, or I don't know what you call it, whether it's dating, I don't know. But the stage before marriage, it's very important for people to go and say, we now want someone who will just guide us on how we're supposed to be ready for marriage. Because many people are spending time preparing for the wedding when in actual fact they've done nothing to prepare for the day-to-day living after the wedding. We're going to live together for the rest of our lives. So there is that premarital counseling, which needs to, I want to blame us leaders of not making sure that people know about this. There are many young people who don't know that they have a pastor in their church who is offering counseling. And he can even do it for a group. He can call all the young people, the senior youth, 21 downwards up to 35. You can call all of them and then
to come
just give a general guideline
counseling for all of them.
Everybody, so that people are ready.
On that note of counseling, what advice would you give to people who are currently cohabiting? What would you say to them?
There's an experience that I've had when I was called to a place out in the Free State. It was a gathering of young people, and I was supposed to be giving them a talk. There's this one girl that stood up and said, I'm troubled by other young people here who are saying, I am Sister White. Sister White, we understand as Adventists that you are a person that is taking care of yourself and you don't want any courtship or anything. Now, this girl struck me with what she said on that day. She said, I need to tell these young people that if I want to be like them, I can always pull my panty down and have sex and I can be like them, but they cannot be like me. Yo, I felt, yo,
Come on
that
now.
was a mouthful, eh? And she says, you can be looking at me and saying I'm stupid, but you can never be like me. So I'm saying, you know, young people, wait your turn. In life, you must wait your turn.
Yes.
And when God gives, he gives you the best of the bestest. You know, there's no other word that I can use, but that is the superlative for me. And so I just want to say, wait your turn, and the blessings that come with that are amazing.
Amen.
So
Hallelujah.
keep
Wonderful.
yourself.
Wonderful. We've coined a new English word, bestest. Thank you so much. So, yeah, our time is up. I have to thank you, my guests, for really coming through and helping us to, you know, get to grips with this issue. Thank you so much for availing yourselves. And perhaps to the viewers at home, you know, thank you so much for allowing us into your space. And we are hoping that we'll see you again next time. And perhaps a final word. You cannot simulate marriage. There is no insight that you can retrieve from your prospective marriage from cohabitation. Let us learn to surrender our ideas of relationship to the one who saves, who sanctifies, and satisfies.
Amen.
And I'd like to say to you at home, please continue to share your ideas with us. The hashtag is TCG on SID. Let us know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. It's called the SID Media. And yeah, I think that's it. Goodbye from me and the team. See you next week. Goodbye.